Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. This video is kind of a part 2 of my Sennheiser Momentum True Wireless 3 review. In the first video I went into everything there is to know about the new Momentum 3s, and today we are going to go through some flagship models from other manufacturers and quickly compare them to Sennheiser's latest and greatest. We got a lot to cover, so let's get started. Before we jump into the comparisons, I strongly suggest you watch my in-depth review of the Momentum 3 first, so you better understand some of the comments I'm going to make. But the main takeaway from that video is that I had issues with the seal and the passive noise isolation of the new Sennheiser buds using their own silicone ear tips, which had a negative impact on both their ANC performance and their sound quality. So I had to switch to third-party memory foam tips, which improved both dramatically, and during all the comparisons and tests I was using those foam tips. And I might have mentioned in the review that those were Comply tips, but actually after all my tests I realized that I mixed things up a little and I used the foam tips that originally came with the Sony XM4 instead. Nevertheless, they work quite well on the Momentum 3, so that's what I'm going with. And by the way, all other buds were tested with their original ear tips, which might not be fair, but I had no issues with any of the other buds or tips, and I wanted to keep things as simple as possible. And just one more thing, there are timestamps for each comparison, so you can jump to whichever earbuds you are interested in the most, and there will be all sorts of microphone comparisons at the very end of the video. And with that out of the way, now we can get into the comparisons. No one will be surprised by my choice for the first head-to-head battle, as everyone wants to know how the Momentum 3 stacks up against the Sony XM4. Starting with their design, the Sennheiser buds are smaller, lighter, they look better, they feel more premium, and they are way more comfortable in the long run. Both buds have the same IPX4 splash and sweat resistant rating, and they are both capable of handling some not too intense workouts due to their secure enough fit. The Sony case is more compact, but the Sennheiser case looks more premium, and it is also of higher quality. The single charge playtime is better on the XM4, but while we can recharge the Sennheiser buds fully 3 times using their case, the Sony case carries an extra 2 charges only. Both battery cases can be charged wirelessly and both can offer quick charging. While both buds come with Bluetooth version 5.2, each manufacturer opted for a different high-res audio codec. Sony used their own LDAC codec, while Sennheiser went with aptX Adaptive instead. Connection and pairing are very similar, so is latency with videos. When it comes to gaming, the Momentum has the edge thanks to its more flexible aptX codec. Both buds can do single mode, but neither of the two supports multi-point use. However, Sennheiser might bring this feature to their flagship model at some point in the future, so keep that in mind for the rest of the video. Both the Sony and the Sennheiser app can offer plenty of custom settings and options to fine-tune and personalize the earbuds. Touch control remapping works much better on the Momentum, and so do the touch controls themselves. We can have basically any controls at our fingertips, while the Sony feels a bit limited in that regard. Both buds come with a feature where you can select certain EQ and noise cancelling presets for different locations. Sony calls it Adaptive Sound Control, while it's called Sound Zones in the Sennheiser app. In general, I find the Sennheiser app more intuitive and easier to use. There is a 5-band manual EQ for the XM4 and only a 3-band EQ for the Momentum, but Sennheiser have the sound check feature, which can create an EQ for you based on your preferences after running a couple of quick listening tests. There is Speak to Chat on the Sony, which activates transparency automatically if you start talking, but you can also make the music pause in transparency mode on the Sennheiser buds. Both buds have smart sensors for autoplay pause, but only the Sony headphones app offers you a tip fit test, Find My Buds, and 360 audio. We get similar settings in both apps for the active noise cancelling, but the ANC itself performs better on the XM4 in most scenarios using the same tips. If let's say the Sony is a 9 out of 10, then the Momentum gets an 8 tops. We have a wind noise reduction mode on both buds, but wind noise in general is handled way better by the Sony buds, regardless of what mode we use. In transparency mode, we get a slider in both apps. At maximum setting, transparency might be a bit more intense on the Momentum, but it also sounds less natural with more white noise and again more wind noise. When it comes to their sound quality, the two buds show loads of similarities. Taut bass with ample kick, Check. Rich mid-range with lively vocals and instruments? Check. Detailed and airy highs? Also check. Where the Sony might have the slightest of advantage is microdynamics, but the Momentum has more of a high-end sparkle and extension, making them sound a bit brighter, especially when the volume is pushed all the way up. And speaking of which, the Sennheiser buds can get louder too. I also found the soundstage more extended to the sides on the Momentum, with a more three-dimensional image overall. I like both buds a lot, but if I had to pick one, that would probably be the Sennheiser, because I managed to sort out the ceiling issue I had with those buds, while the discomfort I get with the Sonys seems to be a constant regardless of what tips I use. And speaking of discomfort, let's see the Technics EAH-AZ60 next. Even though the weight and size difference between the two buds are next to nothing, the AZ60 are one of the least comfortable earbuds I ever used, for reasons I explained in their in-depth review. Funnily enough, their design is kind of a mix of the Momentum 2 and the Momentum 3, so I quite like it. We get the usual IPX4 rated splash protection, and the buds are built to a very high standard. The battery case, on the other hand, feels rather cheap with loads of plastic. It's more compact than the Sennheiser, which can be handy at times, but it's not nearly as solidly built. And it also lacks wireless charging. The total battery life is around 24 hours, while the Sennheiser can deliver 28. The buds can last up to around 7 hours with one charge using AAC, and almost 5.5 hours when LDAC is in use. That's about the same performance you get from the Momentums as well. Their quick charging is a bit slower, and again, there is no wireless charging. In terms of connection, we get a similar situation to the Sony XM4, as we also get LDAC with the Technics buds. The one major difference here is the support for multi-point use on the AZ60, and in fact, it is one of the best implementations of that feature I have seen so far. We get single bud mode on both buds, of course. We get a specific low latency mode on the Technics buds for gaming, but the aptX adaptive codec can adjust latency automatically on the Sennheisers too. The touch controls and their settings are great on both buds, no real differences there. In general, I feel like you get more manual settings and customization in the Technics app, but you can find more automatic or adaptive functions such as the ANC itself or sound zones and sound check in the Sennheiser app. Both apps are well designed with a clean and easy-to-use interface. The ANC performance of the AZ60 is more or less on par with that of the Momentum in most scenarios. Maybe a tiniest bit more of the higher frequencies can get through the AZ60, but I found it really hard to tell the two buds apart during my tests. Wind noise on the Technics buds is significantly reduced compared to the Sennheisers, despite the lack of a wind noise reduction mode. Where the advantage of the Technics buds is obvious is in ambient mode, where everything sounds more natural without too much of that wind noise. Plus we get a vocal mode in the app called Attention. As for their sound, the AZ60 has a more center-focused image with a narrower soundstage. Their bass has a good amount of energy, but it's a tiniest bit less powerful than that of the Momentum. Mid-range is well-balanced and sweet-sounding on the AZ60, but the vocals are not quite as forward as on the Sennheiser. Treble is more rolled off and less excited, and Sennheiser wins the volume battle with ease. Out of the two, the Sennheiser Momentum 3 buds are my personal choice due to their better comfort and their more open and balanced sound. Next up are the Bose QC earbuds. These came out almost 2 years ago at this stage, but their ANC performance, their sound quality, and their flagship status together earned a spot here in this comparison. But starting with their design, these buds are big and heavy. In fact, these are the biggest and heaviest of them all. And even though we get these integrated ear fins and tips, which are quite soft, long-term use is not the most comfortable due to the extra weight. But those fins keep the buds in place quite securely, and also there is an IPX4 rating, which makes them kind of okay to be used for some basic exercise. But intense workouts are a big no in my opinion. Build quality is good, but the Bose buds are made completely from plastic. And we get even more plastic with the case, which once again is huge. It's larger than the already big and not so pocket-friendly Sennheiser case. It offers wireless charging and altogether an 18 hours long total playtime, which is way less than what we can get out from the Momentums. Quick charging, however, is slightly more efficient in the Bose case. Being an older model, we get Bluetooth version 5.1 and there is neither LDAC nor there is aptX on board. Only the good old AAC and SBC codecs can be used with the Bose. There is no single bud mode, no multi-point support and no low latency gaming mode either on the QOBUZ. And the touch controls are not quite my favorite either. There is no single tap or triple tap and the functionality of the controls is barely customizable in the app. The controls are easy to use with a lightning fast reaction time and we also get in-ear detection sensors, so at least there is that. The Bose app offers some basic features only, including manual EQ settings with some presets, settings for the smart sensors and different ANC modes. There is quiet and aware by default, which are basically ANC on and transparency. We can create our own modes where we can set up the strength of the noise cancelling with a slider. There is no wind noise reduction mode, no adaptive noise cancelling, and actually you cannot even turn off ANC, or at least there is no ANC off mode to be found anywhere in the app. But at the end of the day, it's the noise cancelling performance that matters, and this is where the Bose QC still have the edge after all this time. Surrounding noises get dampened more than on the Momentum, regardless of what scenario we find ourselves in. Wind noise is also better handled even without any wind noise specific mode. Aware mode sounds less intense on the Bose, with less of a hiss and wind noise. And while they lack some more advanced features, the Bose QC earbuds are still capable of delivering an exceptional sound, regardless of the poor codec selection. Their bass is taut with a good kick, however the Momentums can go deeper and also have a more layered and detailed bass. The mid-range of the Bose is rich and delightful, but it lacks some of the energy and detail we get from the Sennheiser buds. And to some extent the same can be said about the highs. The whole presentation is less dynamic and lively on the QC buds. Maximum volume is also a bit below of what we can get with the Sennheisers. So I guess it's an obvious win for the Momentum 3, not just in the sound department, but as an overall package too, unless ANC is of the utmost importance to you. Next up is the Master & Dynamic MW08, which wins the design comparison here without a doubt. These buds with their glossy ceramic surface and their aluminum frame are simply the most beautiful earbuds ever created in my opinion. Their build quality is also best in class. The buds weigh significantly more than the Momentums and the whole package is heavier too, thanks to the stainless steel battery case. These are by far my two favorite cases of them all, but it's only the Sennheiser that can be charged wirelessly, while you have to resort to using the USB Type-C port on the Master & Dynamic case. The MW08 buds are really comfortable to use, as they don't go too deep in my ear canals, but maybe that's the reason why their grip is not the most secure. So even though we got an IPX5 rating here, I still think the Momentums are literally a safer bet for exercise. The single charge playtime of the MW08 is by far the best of all the buds tested today, so at least the extra weight turns into some sort of an advantage here. And the same goes for the total playtime and the battery case. I already said how beautifully crafted the case is, but we also get a canvas pouch in the box, which can protect it from scratches inside a messy bag. It's a nice touch, but for $300 or euros, these little extras are somewhat expected, I believe. Wireless charging would also be expected, but we don't get it with the Master & Dynamic case. But we get Bluetooth version 5.2, aptX adaptive, single bud mode and a low enough latency for playing games casually. What we don't get is multi-point support. The MW08 are the only earbuds in this test that have physical buttons, which is good news as the glossy ceramic surface won't collect fingerprints as fast as it would if we had to keep touching it all the time. The buttons are relatively easy to use, but their feedback could be a bit more tactile and there is no way to customize their functionality in the app. And the app has not that many features to offer. We get some ANC settings, an auto sleep timer and an on-off switch for the smart sensors, and that's all there is. Active noise cancellation has never been the strong suit of the MW08, so their performance is quite a bit lacking when compared to the Momentum 3. However, their ambient mode sounds more natural with significantly less distractions, such as hissing or wind noise, and we also get a separate voice mode. Wind noise is handled better across all modes despite not having any specific wind noise reduction option in the M&D Connect app. The large 11mm beryllium drivers of the MW08 can produce a dynamic and very enjoyable sound with good bass extension, rich vocals and detailed but not overly bright highs. But the bass could be a tiny bit more lean, the mids could have a bit more prominent presence, the soundstage could be just a hair wider, and separation could also be ever so slightly better to match the performance of the Sennheiser buds. It's pretty close, but not quite there. The Momentum 3 also has an advantage as far as maximum volume is concerned, so based on all that, the Sennheiser Momentum 3 is the overall winner here. Onto the Soundcore Liberty 3 Pro, we got larger buds with a glossy finish, which I like less than the more masculine and low-profile design of the Momentum 3. The Liberty 3 Pro also weighs more, but that does not affect their long-term comfort thanks to the soft, replaceable silicone fins and tips. The buds sit securely in my ears and they are IPX4 rated, so I could do all my workouts safely using the Liberty 3 Pros. The battery case looks and feels premium, and due to its slim, pebble-shaped form factor, it can slip into most pockets easily. We get not only a cool and unique sliding lid design, but also wireless charging with the case. Both cases can recharge the earbuds 3 times, and while their single charge playtime is supposed to be about the same on paper, I got significantly better results with the Momentum 3, especially when using the best available codec on each earbud. Quick charging, however, gives you more use with the Liberty 3 Pro. There are 2 major differences to discuss regarding connection. One is LDAC and the other one is multi-point support on the Soundcore buds. Even though you cannot use the 2 features together, at least you have the option to use whichever you need in any given scenario. The touch controls work very well on both buds, and we get the same comprehensive remapping options in both smartphone apps too. And the Soundcore app is crammed with settings and features, there is barely anything you cannot customize or test using the app. That's where I believe Soundcore is a small step ahead of Sennheiser. The app is less sophisticated or clean looking, but the sheer amount of options and settings can easily win you over if you are into personalizing your earbuds to the nth degree. ANC tests, Hear ID tests, tip fit tests, a whole bunch of EQ presets, unlimited custom EQ settings, a smart sensor switch, an auto power-off timer, and of course the usual suspects such as a quick start guide and firmware upgrades. When it comes to the active noise cancelling performance, the Liberty 3 Pro turned out to be slightly less efficient than the Momentum 3, especially when blocking out higher pitch noises is concerned. Soundcore has a wind noise reduction switch in the app, which doesn't make as much of a difference as the same on the Momentum 3, but wind noise is less of an issue on the Soundcore buds to begin with. In fully transparent mode, we get a more muted sound with less wind noise and less of a hiss. There is also a vocal mode in the Soundcore app which focuses on human voices and suppresses most others, but the Liberty 3 Pro won't pause music when either of the transparency modes are activated. As far as their sound quality, the bass is way more prominent in the sound of the Liberty 3 Pro out of the box, but I prefer the more controlled and still more than punchy enough low end on the Momentum. The mid-range and especially the vocals get less attention when listening to the Soundcore buds as they get pushed back in the mix. But the highs are full of energy, we get plenty details and energy there. The Liberty 3 Pro has this V-shaped frequency response due to the extra boost in both the low end and the treble. We get better separation, more micro detail and a wider sound stage with the Sennheisers, along with a more balanced, refined or more musical sound. The Momentums can also get a bit louder at maximum volume. Out of these 2, my choice would be the Momentum 3 without a doubt. However, you can get the Liberty 3 Pro for less than half of the price of the Sennheiser buds these days, and that fact in itself gives these Soundcore buds an insane value. And last but not least, there is the recently announced One More Evo. These buds also come in at a lower price point of around $170 or euros as of making this video. Their size is quite close to that of the Momentums and they weigh almost the same too. I believe the Evo buds are a touch more comfortable to wear in the long run. You know, they simply fit perfectly in my ears. We get the same IPX4 rating again and a secure enough fit for any casual physical activity or even running. The design is subjective, but if I had to choose one, I would pick the Sennheiser for their less jewelry-like look. But I can hardly find anything to complain about when it comes to the build quality of either of the two buds, as both are truly premium in that regard. And even though the battery cases could hardly be any more different in their design, both have Qi wireless charging, and I like them both for different reasons. The Sennheiser case is elegant and unique, while the One More case is more simple but more practical at the same time due to its smaller footprint. What I don't like is the rather loose hinge on the lid of the One More case though. The Momentum 3 wins both the single charge and the total playtime tests with quite a margin, but the One More Evo offers insanely good quick charging, so that might be something to consider as well. In terms of connection, I can only repeat myself as we got LDAC and multipoint with the Evo, while there is aptX adaptive with no multipoint on the Sennheiser. Theoretically, multipoint and LDAC work together on the Evo, but it has its issues, so I would rather use either one or the other and not both at the same time. And once again, by the time you watch this video, Sennheiser might have come out with a software update that adds multipoint to the Momentum 3, but as of filming this, it's not available. Single bud mode is supported on both buds, and latency is low enough for watching videos and playing games casually on both. The touch controls work well on both buds, but the Momentums offer better functionality, while the One More app has some limitations when it comes to remapping the different tapping actions. And while I like the layout of both smartphone apps, Sennheiser wins here with their customizable tiles and a more comprehensive set of features. One More has a better, more advanced auto EQ solution, as the Sound ID technology delivers more consistent results than what Sennheiser can do with their sound check feature. But the One More app lacks manual EQ settings and presets. We get settings for the smart sensors, the ANC, the touch controls, firmware upgrades, or even ASMR sounds and the burn-in feature, but I prefer the way Sennheiser approached their smartphone app. The noise-cancelling performance of the Momentum 3 is slightly better across the whole frequency range. They both handle wind noise rather poorly by default, and both apps offer a wind noise reduction mode, but the Evo buds let in more noise when it's activated. In transparency mode, the Momentums have an emphasis on higher frequencies, while the Evo has more hums and rumbles, but wind noise gets more annoying on the Momentum 3, which should not surprise anyone at this stage. As far as sound quality, we get a similarly wide and spacious soundstage on both buds, with a deeper and more resonant bass on the Momentum. The low end feels a touch snappier and more lean with less extension on the Evo, while their mids are more open and forward. There is plenty detail on offer in both sounds, but maybe the Momentums have a slight edge here, especially in the upper mids and treble region. The highs are airy on both, but a tiniest bit less sparkly or more smooth on the Sennheiser, which makes them less prone to causing fatigue in the long run. The Sennheisers can go quite a bit louder too, and the One More Evo are the only earbuds where I'm in a bit of a trouble when it comes to choosing between the two sets. And that's because the differences in performance are kind of balanced out by the difference in prices, which puts the two buds on the same shelf as far as their value is concerned, in my opinion. And while I think that all these buds we just went through today can give you a pretty good idea of where the Sennheiser Momentum 3 fits in on the market of flagship true wireless earbuds, there are still a few that you might miss from this comparison. The Bowers & Wilkins PI7, for example, which I have at hand, but I didn't think they were worthy of a comparison due to their astronomical price, yet kind of average performance across the board. Speaking of crazy high prices, there is everyone's new favorite, the Bang & Olufsen Beoplay EX. These earbuds, just like the PI7, cost €400 or dollars, and that in my opinion excludes them straight away from any reasonable comparison, and on top of that I have never tested or even tried the Beoplay EX at all. And last, there is the Apple AirPods Pro, but those buds are almost 3 years old at this point, and I don't have them, so I guess that is all I can say about that. But what else can I say about the new Sennheiser Momentum buds I haven't touched upon either in this video or in my detailed review? Well, not much to be honest. However, if you feel like you are missing any information, just ask away in the comment section and hopefully you will get a satisfying answer either from me or from someone else in the community. I know many of you expect me to rank the buds, but I'm not going to do that. What I can say though is that two earbuds stand out even from this premium crowd in my opinion. One is the One More Evo because it costs less than most of the others, while delivering at least a matching performance in most regards. And the other one must be the Sennheiser Momentum 3, despite my strange experience with their ear tips and the seal of the buds. But I'd rather deal with that by using third-party tips than putting up with the discomfort of the XM4 or the AZ60, the poor battery life or the bass-heavy sound of the Liberty 3 Pro, or the lack of functions on the Bose QC or the MW08. The Sennheiser Momentum 3 buds are far from being perfect as they have their own little quirks and bugs, and their ANC can really struggle under windy conditions. And at the end of the day, this is why I cannot really announce them as the new kings of the realm. That being said, they can still offer not just an exceptional or even class-leading sound, but also a complete package, which is hard to beat overall. But please keep in mind that anything I just said about the fit, the comfort, the ANC performance or the sound quality of each earbud in this video only reflects my own personal experience and it's based on how I use the buds and the preferences I have. No more, no less. Your priorities might be completely different and your mileage with each bud can greatly vary. But in my opinion, Sennheiser just got a very strong contender on their hands, regardless of all the wrinkles that might get ironed out over time. And let's not forget that the German manufacturer has other offerings as well, so in my next video I'm going to check those out to see whether the Momentum 3 has a worthy competitor in-house or not. But before you go, here are some audio samples I promised you at the beginning of the video. So this is what the microphones sound like on the Sennheiser Momentum 2 Wireless 3 in a quiet room. And if you were wondering how the Sony buds compare, this is a sample of what the microphones sound like on the WF-1000XM4 in a quiet room. And for our next comparison, let's hear what the microphones sound like during a phone call on the One More Evo in a quiet room. Next, this is what you can expect from the microphones on the Master & Dynamic MW08 in a quiet room. Moving on to the Soundcore buds, this is what the microphones sound like on the Liberty 3 Pro in a quiet room. And next, this is what the microphones sound like on the Bose QC earbuds in a quiet room. And last, let's hear a quick audio sample from the microphones on the Technics EAH-AZ60 in a quiet room.
And now I'm outside to test not only how the bus can handle traffic noise in the background, but also to hear what the mics can do about wind noise during the phone call. And now I'm outside to test not only how the bus can handle traffic noise in the background, but also to hear what the mics can do about wind noise during the phone call. And now I'm outside to test not only how the bus can handle traffic noise in the background, but also to hear what the mics can do about wind noise during the phone call. And now I'm outside to test not only how the bus can handle traffic noise in the background, but also to hear what the mics can do about wind noise during the phone call. And now I'm outside to test not only how the bus can handle traffic noise in the background, but also to hear what the mics can do about wind noise during a phone call. And now I'm outside to test not only how the bus can handle traffic noise in the background, but also to hear what the mics can do about wind noise during a phone call. And now I'm outside to test not only how the bus can handle traffic noise in the background, but also to hear what the mics can do about wind noise during the phone call.
But this is the end of this comparison. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. See you next time.